She's a new member, her first time in this exercise. She is a woman. Let us allow her to build her confidence. Let us allow her to flow. Let us allow her to lay the necessary foundation upon which the question will be mounted, so that the people watching and listening would appreciate, so that the member, the nominee himself, will also appreciate the question. So I am pleading with you. I would not co-chair with you. I have cooperated with you thus far. I will not stand in your way. We are in this together. But please tolerate the views we express, and we do so in utmost respect to you. Please. Thank you very much.
Please proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable nominee, you're on record, I believe on January 9th, it was reported by Reuters, that you are going to request additional financing from the IMF. What proposal do you intend to present to the IMF?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, inaccurate reportage. I did not say I am going to request for additional financing from the IMF. Inaccurate. What I said was we could request for additional finances if the need arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
My second question, honorable nominee, is Ghana, like many other countries, depends on taxation as one of the major sources of revenue to fund development. As a matter of fact, one of the conditions of the IMF, the current arrangement with the IMF, is to enhance local revenue mobilization. The NDC party promised Ghanaians to scrap a number of taxes. So how do you intend, if you're given a nod as the Minister of Finance, to bridge the revenue gap?
Honorable nominee, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, let me say this is an excellent question. Mr. Chairman, Ghana currently collects approximately 13.8% of GDP in terms of tax revenue, according to the latest data I've cited as part of the transition. It is obvious that we can do better. I've studied the Ghana economy for some time, and I can say without mincing a word that Ghana has huge potential when it comes to tax revenue mobilization. You don't necessarily have to increase taxes before you rake in revenue. You have the handles. What we need to do is to improve compliance. I will work with the JRA, the tax policy unit of the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that we increase compliance and to raise the revenue as much as we can. In the medium term, it is my vision, when approved, to increase the revenue from 13.8, tax revenue from 13.8% of GDP to about 16 to 18%. That will be able to compare ourselves to our peers. I believe the potentials are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Yes, we have obviously announced that we are going to scrap certain taxes. We'll stick to just that. But it doesn't also mean that we don't care about the revenue. We care about the revenue. And we'll have to do more on revenue. But it doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Some of the taxes out there are not bringing in the revenue that it should. For example, the betting tax is bringing in less than 50 million Ghana cedis a year. It's a nuisance tax. Scrapping 50 million Ghana cedis will not mean anything in a way that will affect the economy if you are to adjust, particularly from the expenditure side. I mean, the noise of the betting tax and all does not comprehend the imposition of such a tax. That's why I believe that scrapping such a tax will not necessarily affect the forward march of the Ghanaian economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, there have been a lot of macroeconomic policy focus on inflation and exchange rate. Yet the AGI and others in the private sector still complain of high interest rates affecting their businesses. So what are you going to do, given a nod, differently? What are you going to do differently to ensure that our macroeconomic policies are more effective in lowering interest rates for the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you. I think government has a key role to play in this, particularly the fiscal authorities. I say this because if the country is actively in the market, borrowing every week, I mean, if you look at the TVGH market today, every single week we roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis. And if you were to roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis week in, week out, the exchange rate, the interest rate will certainly go up. And you should also understand that interest rates sometimes are a function of inflation. And that is why personally, I believe there's the need for us to immediately work to bring inflation down. And then also work in such a way that we can stabilize inflation, stabilize the exchange rate, and create jobs. Until we do such a thing, certainly the concerns you raise will still be there. And there's a lot of work we have to do. It starts from the fiscal authorities. We need to cut expenditure. The time is now. We have to cut the waste. And if you cut the waste, certainly you'll be able to, you will not be able to, you will certainly go to the market in a careful way that you will not be borrowing as much as you are borrowing today. And that in itself, you won't crowd out the private sector and you will be bringing down the inflation in a way that interest rate will come down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minority Leader and the ranking member has one follow-up question.
Thank you. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, you said in a response to our respected colleague's question about tax revenue that as a nation we don't need to necessarily raise revenue through taxes. I mean, that's then clarified so that I can lay the proper foundation, please.
Mr. Chairman, I did not say that.
I just want you to clarify the point there.
I said we do not necessarily have to raise tax revenue by increasing the tax rate. It doesn't mean the same.
So how do you juxtapose that within the context of your previous position in respect of incentives to the private sector? We've had a private sector policy by the previous government where the whole intent was to free the space for the private sector so that they can invest more, so that they can employ more. You held a position strongly against that incentive, that taxes be necessarily imposed on raw materials that are imported for manufacturing purposes in the country, on equipment that are imported for manufacturing in the country, and all others. How do you juxtapose that?
Mr. Chairman, my position.
Before you come in. Honorable Mama Yarga is on point of order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, the nominee did not say that taxes should not be imposed on raw materials. The issue was whether or not taxes already imposed should be received or exempted by this House. So let's communicate accurately.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ayarga. The nominee is capable of answering the question, so proceed to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my position on tax exemptions are well known. I do not intend to hide from that, and I won't hide from that. Mr. Chairman, tax exemption is gradually becoming a major source of tax expenditure in our fiscal framework. Unfortunately, it's not properly targeted, and so you see a situation where we exempt huge volumes of our taxes to particular companies. At the same time, because we're exempting those taxes, we end up increasing these tax rates. for so many other people to pay, I believe everyone else must be given the opportunity to pay taxes. My concern, particularly with the one that you are making reference to, I'm sure it has to do with 1D, 1F. It is not transparent enough. I do not believe that certain individuals must be privileged enough to get tax exemptions, whilst others doing the same should not be given the opportunity to get tax exemption. And I have contended in the past that if the government insists on tax exemption for 1D, 1F, they should put it in the law and allow everyone else to benefit from such tax exemption. My main concern, particularly my criticism against the 1D, 1F, has to do with the opaque manner that it has been done in the past. And I still stand by that. If the government, or if this current government still believes that tax exemption 1D, 1F is irrelevant, then obviously my suggestion is put it in the law. Let everyone benefit from it, but don't pick and choose and decide who should benefit from such a tax exemption. I think it's wrong, and taxation must be fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last follow-up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Leader, I'm making this point as a result of what you just said. Yes, you complain of the lack of transparency. But for the records, an Honorable Yabuama is here. He chaired the committee. You may recall that as a result of those concerns, government at the time was able to meet those concerns to the extent that there was even a waiver on one item, raw materials. In fact, let me say not waiver, the raw materials component was taken out of the whole exemption. And through scrutiny, the request was very much reduced. Would you say that it was purely political because those concerns were addressed, but you still said no?
Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets for saying no. I have no regrets in the sense that when these taxes were introduced, tax exemptions were introduced to us in this House, initially we were called upon to exempt approximately $458 million. Upon my insistence, the Minister of Finance went back to working together with the Minister for Trade and brought it down to about $100 million. So straight away, I could say I saved the nation approximately $400 million, about $358 million, obviously because of my insistence. I still felt there was the need for us to do more. And that $100 million, I could still see things that I disagreed. And so, Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets, and I think I did what is right for Ghana and for all of us. Because clearly, it wasn't right for us to grant some of those tax exemptions. I wasn't alone. Colleagues from the Finance Committee agreed with me, and together we fought it. But obviously, I did not champion this alone. Let me also use this platform to pay tribute to Honorable Kweku Kwati. Honorable Kweku Kwati was instrumental in the fight against this tax exemption, because he agreed with me that these taxes were certainly not right, and we are working for Ghana. And if we can save $558 million, look at Accra Kumasi Road. We could use that money to fix Accra Kumasi Road. I think it wasn't necessary for us to approve that tax and those concerns. It's not personal, it's not political, but we did it with the right intention, obviously for God and country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Foko Jindwa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Get closer to your mic.
Honorable Castle Atoban Forson, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nominated as Minister-Designate for Finance. I've got a few questions. The first one, can you tell us how you are going to fund the government machinery, given that now there is no appetite for lenders to give money on long term? And the money market segment is already crowded, as you initially alluded. So how are you going to fund government machinery? Lenders are not ready. In long term, the money market end is already crowded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the short term, we need to bring confidence back. It's as important as anything. My proposal is for us to immediately introduce a very strong budget, signaling that we are ready to do the heavy liftings. That first budget will indeed send the right signal that Ghana is ready to open our doors for investors to come into the country. I believe if we are to introduce strong measures, particularly from the expenditure side, we will be able to bring inflation down to 8% plus or minus 2. In doing so, we'll be able to reopen the domestic bond market so that we can move away from the over-reliance of the treasury bill market. And so we'll be able to, at the minimum, smoothing the harms that has been created as a result of the domestic debt exchange and the Eurobond. And so we need to bring confidence back. But you know, if you are confronted with a situation where you do not have financing, then there's the need for you to look within. Let's deal with expenditure. Let's cut expenditure. Let us not pretend that there's money out there for us. Just like it has been done somewhere, we can also do it here. My proposal is, let's look at the expenditure side as well. It shouldn't always be borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. It's time for us to cut the waste. And so I will lead the process to cut the waste. And I will need you, honorable members, to help me cut the waste so that we live and stay within the envelope that we can. But when push comes to shove, obviously, we will work with our development partners, such as the African Development Bank, the World Bank, the European Union, and other bilateral agencies, including the IMF, to raise cheaper sources of financing to finance government expenditure, particularly expenditures that can lead to proper growth and inclusive growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you, Minister-Designate. My second question, you've already given a hint on it, which relates to tax exemptions. Particularly, what I want to hear from you, or what I would expect you to tell this committee, is that the Exemptions Act of 2022, Act 1083, allows the states to take equity stake in entities that apply for tax exemptions. This has never been applied, though the Act allows it. Can you tell this committee that under your regime, you'll be bold enough to apply this aspect of the Act, that entities that come for tax exemptions, you'll be ready to go in for equity stake for this country? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's now great. We've done one, I think last year. Honorable Abina will bear me witness. Honorable Kweku Kwarteng championed it. In fact, I seconded the motion for us to set the tone and allow to implement the Tax Exemption Act, particularly the portion that allows government of Ghana to take equity stake. So we've done once, and as a champion against tax exemptions, and someone who insists that tax exemption must also count, you can count on me that I will do whatever it takes, that when push comes to shove, that we have to grant tax exemption. The country must benefit. You can count on me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So everyone has heard and will be watching. My third question. You know, it is commonly known that we generate really nothing much from the informal sector when it comes to taxes. And if you look at the mid-year budget of 2024, you look at page 107, you realize that tax from PAYE, you look at the revised budgets, it's about 21.113 billion cedis. Whereas taxes from self-employed for the same period is about 1.572 billion cedis. So this is a ratio of 13 to 1. So the formal sector, PAYE, revenue from those taxes, is 13 times what we get from all the self-employed. So the gap is so big. What would you do practically to close this gap? A gap of 13 to 1. What would you do practically?
I remember this is a very valid question, very interesting one. I think there's a genuine concern. First, we need to formalize the informal sector. Second, we need to encourage them to formally register with the Revenue Authority. And third, we need to incentivize them. We can learn from Uganda. Uganda has been able to incentivize the informal sector. And as such, they are collecting more taxes from the informal sector than most of sub-Saharan African countries. The question is, what have they done? What Uganda did was to agree through tax education that a percentage of whatever you pay will be used as your pension contribution even at the informal sector. And so my proposal is, why can't we encourage, or through tax education, encourage the informal sector by instituting an informal sector pension scheme where you plow back, let's say 30%. It doesn't mean quoting for 30%, let's say 30% of whatever you pay as your contribution from your income tax, as your contribution to your pension scheme, of which you benefit when you go in retirement. These are options, and we have to learn from best practices. Let's see what has been done elsewhere to formalize the informal sector and to incentivize them to pay. The options are there. I'm open for advice. I will listen, and I'm ready, as when approved as minister, to work with all of you to see what we can do to allow the informal sector also to contribute their widow's mite towards the development of our dear country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will then move to the majority side to take questions from the leaders of the Partners Committee. Starting from Honorable Azigadongo.
Thank you very much, Chairman. First, I want to congratulate my honorable colleague, with whom I've worked closely over the years. But also to thank His Excellency for the privilege to bring a thoroughbred finance person from this house, who has been involved in oversight for 6 years and in practice income for about 4 years. When I was invited, I asked myself what questions I need to ask for our because I've always been on this side preparing solutions, and I have been in meetings where you and I have led conversations on the way forward to save our country. All I can say here is that I believe that my colleagues are better placed because I know your quality and what you do.
You want to be deputy?
So I have nothing to ask.
Thank you, Honorable Adongo. It's now the turn of Richard Achampong.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, congratulations. I've worked with you since 2013 to date, so I know what you stand for. So, Mr. Chairman, I have only one question for you. Mr. Nominee, how do you plan to address the country's fiscal challenges and ensure debt sustainability? Thank you very much.
Now, Nominee, your answer.
Mr. Chairman, Ghana's debt management the past few years has been a major cause of concern. It is sad to know that the country has gone through very difficult debt exchange domestic. It's also sad to note that we had to restructure our Eurobonds. In order to not repeat the past mistakes, we intend to establish an independent debt management office. But in the meantime, we have a major harm that we have to deal with. For example, on the 18th of February, about 6.8 billion Ghana cedis will be due for payment. It is our responsibility to make sure we pay. And the Ministry of Finance, I believe at this time, are prepared to make that payment. My responsibility is to make sure what has happened in the past does not repeat. And so I will do just that. I will work with the Ministry of Finance, I will work with our development partners, I will do whatever it takes to avoid a second wave of the crisis we faced in 2022. That I can assure you. Thank you very much. I worked under Honorable Sete for 4 years, an astute tax practitioner. I learned under him. He used to meet the revenue authorities once every fortnight. As a result, we saw our revenue improve. What I can assure you is that learning from the Honorable Sete and seeing the way our revenue increased in the shortest possible time, I'll go by the same approach. But aside that, I will dedicate considerable amount of my time towards revenue mobilization. Ministers of Finance often have not paid enough attention to revenue mobilization. I think we should not allow the GRA alone to mobilize the revenue. The Ministers of Finance will have a role to play, and I'll play such a role. As I said, I will dedicate considerable amount of my attention towards revenue mobilization and to help improve the revenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question.
I only want to wish the nominee very well.
Thank you. Honourable members, now the turn of Honourable Abana Osei Asari to pose a question to the nominee. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I see you are smiling because I've been in your shoes before. And less than a year ago, I was sitting here and you were sitting there firing questions at me. But I want to use this opportunity to congratulate you. I think you have worked very hard. You put us on our toes when we were in government. And I hope to do the same constructively moving forward. So I wish you well. Just one or two questions, and that will be it, because you are now moving there. You've been there before. You were there as a deputy minister. You are now going as the finance minister yourself. And I know that a lot of decisions will rest or come from you. I remember that in 2023, during the budget, you mentioned the fact that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama would inherit a very difficult economy. This is in the Parliamentary Hansard, November 21st, 2023. That's the page 35. But at the end of 2024, and during the transition, we shared some economic data with you. You agree with me that we exceeded revenue. Same GRA exceeded revenue by, I think, 400 million to, it was 178 billion or so. They exceeded by 400 million Ghana cedis. The economy grew from 2.9% in 2023 to first half of the year to 5.8% in 2024. We managed to tame inflation down to 23.2% from 23.8% in December. The banking sector assets have also improved from 274 billion in 2023 to about 376 billion in 2024 October. The private sector credits increased by 28.8% from a negative of 7.5% in the same period last year. The primary balance has improved from a deficit to a surplus, and we live in a reserve of 7.7 billion, representing 3.5 months of import cover compared to the 2.7 months of import cover of about 5.9 billion in 2023. And you also talked about the debt restructuring. And in there, we also told you how far we have gotten with that. We have done over 90% of that. We are left with just the private sector, the private bits, and we will be done. So, my dear friend, we've known each other way back in our university days, so I can call him a friend. So, my dear friend, with this data that you have been presented with, how would you describe the 2024 economy that you have inherited?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Nominee over to you.
Mr. Chairman, it's early days yet to make a pronouncement on the 2024 outtakes. As we speak, there's no outtake for 2024 because whatever you have is preliminary and cannot be said that is outtake. I say this because the transition numbers she's presenting. We did a transition between 9th to about 21st of December. It doesn't give you end year numbers. Mr. Chairman, I had her talk about revenue, but the revenue alone will not give you a picture of the fiscal deficit. You need to correspond it with expenditure. I'm also aware that between 30th to 31st, we saw the controller paying out about 18 billion cedis. So 18 billion cedis as against the 400 that you gained. That's a deficit. And so let's wait for end year numbers. I don't want to speculate. I will wait for end year numbers, and then I'll present so, if approved, to Parliament. Mr. Chairman, I want to learn from the former president, Sikap Belide. I will wait till then before I make those statements. And when the time comes, I will present the true picture of the economy. I don't want to speculate at this point. Let's wait for our turns, and the budget will be read maybe next month, so that we don't use this podium to create speculation. And to add to what the first questioner said, whatever we say here today, whatever we do here today has implication. And it's very sensitive to the market, and so let's be careful not to speculate. I don't want to be pushed to speculate. So
Honorable Nominee, you know the rules. What is the meaning of Sikam Belide?
Mr. Chairman, the former president spoke in French and Cree. I don't understand.
Thank you very much,
Yes, you may proceed with your next question.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad my friend has confirmed this, because in November 2023, the numbers presented were also provisional, and yet he was able to make a declaration on it. And so in November 23, all that he said were speculation based on what he just told us, that he will not speculate, he rather waits for the outcome. But in November 23, the numbers based on which he made that statement were also provisional.
Honorable former Minister, is that your next question?
Can I launch, Your Excellency? And so, I mean, that's by way of just letting him know that today he's saying that he will wait and not speculate. But in November 2023, these were the same provisional numbers that we gave out, and yet he was able to make a declaration of the true states of the budget. Thank you, my brother. Okay, I move to my second question. And my second question is about resetting Ghana. That's you, yes. Resetting Ghana, and you are in the highest chair to push this agenda. There's a saying that once you first fix your macroeconomy, all other things will fall through. But in your own manifesto, you're saying that you want to shift from over-concentration on the macroeconomy and then prioritize microeconomy. looking at the current macroeconomic situation, can you say, as you suggested, that it is going to remain the same, that we have fixed the macro such that you can start you can start quickly with your macroeconomy agenda that you gave out in your manifesto? I just want you to share with us what you think you will do to hit the ground running, as you said in your manifesto, moving away from the macroeconomy because you think we have fixed that for you, and then you want to ride on the back of that to continue with your macroeconomy, as you stated in the manifesto.
Thank you very much.
The Chairman, I want to leave this with us. Ghana is not out of the woods yet. In fact, we are still in the woods. And there's a lot more work we have to do as long as the macro is concerned. But it's important for us to understand that you don't only grow the economy from the macro, you grow the economy also from the micro. You don't necessarily create jobs only from the macro, you create jobs from the micro. You don't stabilize the city only from the micro, you stabilize the city also from the micro. Mr. Chairman, it is obvious that in the last many years, Ghana has overly concentrated on the macroeconomy. I think we need to get back to basics. If you want to fix the city and you fail to deal with the structural challenges you face as a country, you will firefight. In the end, it will be short-term. We need to deal with it. Yes, you can use the macro to deal with the short-term challenges. But what about the micro? Now your oil revenue is dwindling by 30%, in fact 37%. And you want cities. You have hydrocarbon assets sitting, becoming stranded. What are you doing at the micro side to make sure you can pump in the revenue? Bring the oil out and then get enough revenue to support the economy. What are you doing? You have a cocoa industry that is collapsing, moving from 968,000 metric tons per annum to less than 500,000. What are you doing? These are micro issues that we have to deal with. And I believe that ministers of finance should not only be at the ministry just to pay people. That is only a function of the Ministry of Finance. But ministers of finance must and will have to also pay attention to the economic development mandate of the ministry. So I can assure you, what we said in our manifesto, we stand by it. We will have to do something different. And when approved, with your help, I would dedicate once again a considerable amount of my attention towards the development of the microeconomy, the rest sectors of our economy, to help create jobs and stabilize our currency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before your next question, Honorable Boa has a follow-up question. You are done.
No. Chairman, thank you. I think the question brought you to the city's stability. And you know the city has depreciated by over 30%. And it's really a matter of great concern. Can you outline some of the steps you take to stabilize the city?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, Bank of Ghana alone cannot anchor the Ghana city. The Ministry of Finance will have to play a critical role in anchoring the Ghana city. Mr. Chairman, in the shortest possible time, it is our responsibility to make sure we reduce inflation to 8% plus or minus 2, the target band, in the shortest possible time. Inflation, 8% plus or minus 2. And we'll do that through a careful but strong front-loaded fiscal consolidation agenda, expenditure-based, let me put it this way. And when we're able to do that, it will help the central bank, the monetary authorities, to be able to save reserves and be able to protect the city or come in to intervene when the need arises. But let me also say that all said and done, that is the short-term measure. But in the long term, as a country, we need to sustainably anchor the Ghana city with a number of policies, and then this through our manifesto we've announced a number of them. First is the establishment of the Ghana Gold Board, so that we can use the gold in a way to bring in the forex, the needed forex to support the city in the very short term. Second, as part of our manifesto, we said we are going to revitalize the palm industry and the cocoa industry. We're already in talks with the World Bank to have that and to make sure that happens. I believe the cocoa and the palm industry will also go a long way to support, bringing the needed forex to support. In fact, cocoa had been the mainstay of our economy over the years until recent that the forex is not coming in. We have to do some work, obviously, with the non-traditional export as well. And most importantly for me, we also need to deal with the hydrocarbons. That over the last 8 years, Mr. Chairman, the questioner was a former Minister for Petroleum. You agree with me that in the last 8 years we've not been able to bring on stream any additional oil field. That is a major concern. It's not that we don't have the oil is there. It's not that we cannot get additional forex to support, but we need to be quick. And these are things that the Ministry of Finance will have to play a very critical role. So we'll sustainably anchor the city by ensuring that these major policies are introduced in the shortest possible time to ensure that we can have a stable city. And that's my priority. As I've said, and I've said it so many times, my priority is stable city, low prices, and indeed job creation. That is a priority, and I'll work to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Now, Honorable, your last question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I heard my brother say that they're going to, according to their manifesto, there's going to be a gold board being set up. And we also know that Bank of Ghana is also having this gold reserve program. So is it a new name for an existing program, or Bank of Ghana will have to halt the current gold reserve program to enable you implement the initiatives in your manifesto? This is just by the way. But my last question is this, my brother. You mentioned that you're going to work very well to improve our revenue measures and increase revenue from the 13.8% on tax GDP to 16%. I just want to let you know by way of information that there's a revenue strategy policy of the ministry that in the medium term revenue strategy policy, that in the medium term we're going to take Ghana from the current position where we are to about 20%. And I hope that you find time to look at it, and where you need to tweak it a bit, tweak it and make sure it is implemented for all of us to achieve this target that we have set for ourselves, because at the end of the day, it is the revenues that will accrue to Ghana to enable us to what is expected of us. You also mentioned that you're going to cut the waste, but you know, in the public sector, expenditure composes of, that is my question I'm asking, expenditure composes of compensation, goods and services, and capital expenditure. So when you say you're going to cut the waste, you're going to cut the waste. I'm afraid this is what we have. And unless you want to say you want to rationalize expenditure, but if you say you're going to cut the waste, this is the component of it. Meanwhile, in your manifesto, you also mentioned that you are going to roll out this big expenditure and take it.
Honorable member, you are making statements. You are not answering questions. You are not asking questions. You are making statements. I am laying the preamble to answer. The preamble cannot be a thesis.
Because you will need that, respectfully, Mr. Chairman. What I'm saying is that in your manifesto, you mentioned some big expenditure items. That one, you're going to roll out the 10 billion big push policy for strategic infrastructure, which is on page 24 of your manifesto. You also mentioned that you're going to implement an economic transformation agenda, which is also on page 24 of your manifesto. You mentioned that you're going to implement the Ghana Framework for Industrialization, Revitalization, Support and Transformation, aka Ghana First, which is also on page 37 of your manifesto. And your holy grail, that is the 24-hour economy. So with your position of cutting waste and this huge expenditure ticket items in your manifesto, how do we reconcile the two? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, as for the waste, we'll cut it. And it has to be cut. It has to be cut in such a way that you will not hurt growth and you will not hurt the vulnerable. But we will cut it. Mr. Chairman, I've been in this house for years, 60 years. During this period, I've learned a lot. I learned under Minister Tekpe. I've served on the Finance Committee for 12 years. I've been a ranking member for 6 years. I've been a minority leader for 2 years. Now I'm the majority leader. No one can convince me that our budget does not have waste. We need to cut them. We need to come together, identify them, and cut it. So, Chairman, the question is, the waste benefit only a select few, and then its unintended consequences affect all of us as a nation. It ends up breeding fiscal indiscipline, high budget deficit, financing, and in the end, we've seen the outcome. Haircuts. That's the outcome. But let me say that going forward, I will work with your good selves in an open manner, so that together we can work to save our country. Yes, the Honorable Abena made a point that their medium-term revenue strategy is to increase the revenue from its current level to 20%. I hope that is not taxes, because from 13.8 to 20% in the medium term, 2 to 3 years, is very steep. Very steep. 13.8% of GDP to 20% is extremely steep. I'm not saying we cannot, but I will work to achieve it. But let me say that 13.8% to 20% is extremely steep. Have you been able to do it in 8 years? The answer is no. And so, unless it is domestic revenue, which include non-tax revenue, but I can assure you, I'll have a look at all of those. And it is in our interest to increase revenue. And we'll do whatever it takes to increase those revenues. Some of the things we'll do from the expenditure side is the establishment of an independent value for money office, so that Parliament, working with us, will be able to set up a ceiling of government contracts that must go through independent value for money analysis that will be owned by the state. I think that must be done. And it will be the beginning of cutting the waste. And Honorable Abena, I recognize that you've served at the Ministry of Finance for 8 good years. During this period, I know you worked on expenditure, you worked on revenue. So we'll tap into your wisdom. Help us identify some of the waste you may know about so that we can cut them appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's not a turn of Honorable Muhammad.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairman. And good morning, Honorable nominee, for a well-deserved nomination. My question has to do with investment, the motivation that you have to give to investor confidence. Over the years, we saw major players in our business industry getting out of the country. Now, in a few weeks, however, I've seen some increase in the money market. You have alluded to it here. The available data indicates that the last window of the government treasury bill was oversubscribed by over 2 billion. Can you tell us what plans and measures you have to boost investor confidence? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, from our conversation, particularly with the private sector, a lot of things came out. Distorted VAT regime, the need for us to simplify our taxes, an unfriendly working environment. I believe we need to listen once again to the investor community and the private sector. And in doing so, we'll work with them to come out with a blueprint that will encourage the private sector to grow. From the bond side, I don't know if you meant by the money market side, the bond side. We need to immediately improve our credit rating faster. How do you improve the credit rating? Your fiscal will play a role, and signaling to them that you are ready to do things differently. I've signaled already that we will undergo an expenditure-based, strong, front-loaded fiscal consolidation in the shortest possible time, so that together we can send a strong signal to the market, particularly when inflation is reduced. Today, it is very difficult for us to go back to the bond market. But for us to go back there, domestic bond market I mean, for us to go back there are a few things we need to get it right. Your credit rating and inflation. Inflation today is 23.8, the highest in the last 8 months. And you can see the inflation is inching up. It's inching up by the day. Why has inflation become so stubborn? And I think it's a question we need to ask. And what do we have to do to be able to bring inflation to a target band A plus or minus 2%? It has to start from the fiscal authorities. And we will start. And we know exactly what we have to do. I need your nod. I need your support. And together, we have a responsibility to do what it takes to fix the economy for the benefit of all of us, particularly the ordinary Ghanaian out there who's struggling. So I'm open, very open for ideas and to listen to you, not only you, but to the private sector and the entire market, to do whatever you have to do. I'm a very lucky man. I come to this job apart from my personal experience, but I worked under an astute finance minister, Honorable Set, who's like a father to me. I'll reach out anytime, and there are a lot of people. And Honorable Abina is a sister I know. Honorable Amin, the former past minister. And so, let's see. Whatever it takes, we'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Honorable Umar.
Thank you, Chairman, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Nominee and Leader, congratulations. I have a question on public debt. And I'll base it on the mid-year review, 2024 mid-year policy review. Paragraph 51 stated that the public debt of Ghana is 742 billion cedis as of today. I want to ask you, how do you plan to manage this huge debt? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, we will manage the public debt. I know it's a matter of concern to most of us, but I can assure you, don't be despaired. We'll do whatever it takes to clear the harms that has been created as a result of the debt restructuring. For example, I've looked at the domestic maturities carefully, and you can see that as a result of the debt restructuring, 2025, this year, we'll have to pay off amortization, debt repayment, not interest, 12.6 billion Ghana cedis, domestic. 2026, you have to repay another 15.7 billion Ghana cedis. 2027, you have to pay 53 billion, and 2028, 48 billion. So you could see the harms that have been created. It's frightening and worrying. You have similar harms that has been created at the Eurobond side. You have billions of dollars. This year already we've paid about $364 million US, and others that are coming up. From next year, you'll be compelled to pay every year $1 billion US from the Eurobond market. From the bilateral official creditors, we don't know yet because they've not signed the MOU at all. I recognize the challenges that we have to face as a country. I'm familiar with it. What I can say is that we need to urgently go back to the drawing board to see what we can refinance and what we cannot refinance, and build buffers to take those ones that we cannot refinance. Currently, we do not have buffers to take off some of this debt as and when they fall due, particularly the external side. No buffers. We have to learn from the past. We have to learn from our mistakes as a country. Jahbless Tepe once taught me how to build buffers and his famous sinking fund. When you have the need to save for during good times to take care of eventualities or during bad times. We did say, to the extent that when we were leaving office, there was enough buffers for the incoming administration to repay the maturing Eurobond. We did just that. Today, it is obvious that we do not have buffers for the external side. For the domestic side, I don't know of any buffer. But nevertheless, and as I've said, don't be despaired, we will manage this debt. His Excellency, the former president, in his last State of the Nation address said that he did not expect the incoming finance minister to default. I want to use this podium to assure the former president that we will not default. We are very much aware of the harms that has been created. It's not palatable. It's worrying. For example, you need to always, every week in, week out, go into the T-bill market and refinance it, 111 billion Ghana cedis. Week in, week out. 91 days, you have to refinance 51.6. 182 days, you have to refinance 24.6 billion. And 364 days, you have to refinance 34.9 billion. So together, you are talking of 111 billion Ghana cedis in T-bills that you have to refinance. Or probably rover. Aside the domestic payment debt that I spoke about. But we will implement an effective debt management program, and we will establish an independent debt management office. I think I said it earlier. And this independent debt management office will manage our debt better, and going forward, avoid past mistakes. I think that is very important. I think we don't have to dwell too much with the past. The past is behind us. We have a country to take care of. We have citizens that are struggling. And so we'll focus on the way forward and forward march of our people and do what is right. But be assured, we'll manage the debt better.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from Oman? Honourable members, against the ground rules, I've exercised my discretion as the chairman of the committee to welcome a question from Sami Auku, a friend to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would like to just ask a follow-up question, if it pleases Mr. Chairman, and then I can go on to my substantive. Congratulations, Honorable Nominee. No.
Mr. Chairman, we had an understanding. The leader of the minority made a valid point to allow a question from a non-member of the committee. Against the existing protocol, the chairman agreed for the person to answer to ask a question. It is not appropriate for that person to now say you want to ask a follow-up question before his substantive question. That is not allowed. So go on and answer your question. That is I think the point.